Hello, wrestling fans. This is Sal Lasardo reporting in from Orlando, Florida. Vengeance had just concluded on the WWE Network, and here is my thoughts and my recap of the entire show that started at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you've not got a chance to see it, please check out the replay. I don't think you'll be entirely disappointed. It was solid for the most part. Please be advised, these are my opinions only. They have nothing to do with Bill after the WWE. This is just my final recap of what I thought of the show. There were 5 big matches on the card. Let's get right to the action. The opening match had saw us Ember Moon and Shotzi versus Raquel and Dakota Kai for the Dusty Rose Finals for the women's titles, for the women's tag team, not title, but for the Dusty Rose Tag Team Tournament. It started out some quick pads between Ember and Shotzi. Raquel and was coming out showing her strength, her power. She really did show her strength and power throughout this entire match. Raquel seemed to be the dominating force in this matchup. Dakota was the acrobatic, agile part of the partnership between the two. She was the one taking some serious bumps in this matchup. Ember hit a nice splash early. Um, and about the 7 minute mark, it slowed down a little bit. Ember got a bit of control over Dakota, but it slowed down a little bit. There was a really sick bump by Raquel on Shotzi on the outside of the ring into the plexiglass or cage area that they had outside. So Shotzi took a real bump, but it slowed a bit. But then it picked up. Both teams went for a lot of falls between each other, and Ember and Shotzi was just throwing the kitchen sink basically at this point. They couldn't get Raquel down. They couldn't get Dakota down. Both teams had some several close calls, but Ember and Shotzi were really trying to gain control of this, and they just couldn't get Raquel down. I mean, they just couldn't do it. Towards late in the match, it then shifted towards Raquel's favor, and there was no quit number in Shotzi, but Raquel and just too strong, too much power, and when it was all said and done with, in about 20 minutes worth of the match time, Raquel and Dakota were declared the winner. I gave this a 4 stars out of 5. Great way to open up the show. Great by the ladies. A little bit slow, but the pace picked up. Not bad. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. I like the way the pace I picked up. Dakota took some bumps. You saw the strength and power of Raquel. You saw Dakota can take that acrobatic, agile type of moves in the ring. So that's a complementary between the two teams, the two partners. You had Ember and Shotzi basically the same. Ember more powerful, Shotzi more the acrobatic, but it was just too much Raquel Gonzalez in this match. I want to see Raquel and Dakota maybe go after Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the women's tag team title. Remember, they can be defended on all brands. I'd like to maybe see what kind of a matchup we get out of these two teams. I mean, you got, Raquel, the power, and Dakota and the agile. You got Shayna Baszler, the the brawler from the UFC that she's a former champion, Nia, in there doing her powers, a powerful team. It'll be very interesting. I think a pretty good match. So again, Dakota and Raquel won the match. I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Great way to open the show. The next match that we had, believe it or not, was the next match on the out of 5 was the North American Championship with Gargano and Kushida. It started off fairly quick with Gargano in control. They were brawling. Gargano was taking it to the challenger. The crowd was fairly live in it for the most part. Then the tables turned, of course, and then Kushida gained some control for several minutes, but he was unable to keep Gargano down. I mean, he was just unable to and not expected to. But he put up a somewhat of a valiant effort, I would have thought. He showed that he belonged in the ring with Johnny, but at the end, going through this match, Johnny showed why was the champion. Both competitors were going back and forth a little bit, trying to secure the victory. But the suplex off the top rope by Kushida was really the bump of the match. turned into a submission armbar locked in, but Johnny wasn't going to give up. If you've seen Johnny Gargano's matches, he never gives up. When it was all said and done, it was two DDT later, and Johnny retained. Kushida looks solid. I expect maybe more down the road from him, but Johnny's on to bigger and better things, whatever that may be. Once the pace picked up, you saw both perform and shine. You know Johnny Gargano's not going to have a bad match, but Kushida really kept it up, took the two DDTs. Johnny retained. Kind of surprised Candice LeRae didn't interfere at all, but she didn't need to. Johnny seemed to, have this thing after a while pretty much going in his favor, especially after the two DTs. Um, Still a good, solid second match, a fine effort by both. But Johnny showed why he's champion and why he's been in wars since he's been in the WWE. And I gave the match a 4 stars out of 5 rating. Third match on the card was the Dusty Rhodes final for the men. MSK versus the Grizzlies Young Veterans. The young veterans came out kind of strong, actually. They were coming out with some quick tags. MSX was trying to use some of these acrobatics to gain control. But the young vets, I felt they were about 75% in control of this match. But that don't mean anything when it's all said and done with. Throughout, they tried to regain control, but for most of this match, this was MSX being in control. MSX, however, they were actually finally able to finish off the young veterans and win the Dusty Men's Final. I gave it a 3.5 stars out of 5, maybe a 3.25, 3.5 stars out of 5. There were some close falls. I just wasn't into it, honestly. I just expected a little bit more. I thought the women's match was much better. The women's Dusty's final was much better than the men. I didn't really get into the match at all. It just didn't really give me that feel for these two teams. But again, the effort was there. The young vets are solid heels. We'll just see where it goes from here. But I thought it was 3.25, 3.5 stars. It didn't top the women's match, and it didn't top Johnny Gargano's match. I may be kind of close, but Johnny Gargano, I mean, they at least had some moves and some bumps along the way. But I didn't think that this was really top of the line for a Dusty Rhodes final. The triple threat match between the women came up after that. That was when Aishari and Toni Storm and Mercedes Martinez for the triple threat. There was a lot of action. It was kind of a short match for a triple threat, believe it or not. It was short considering. And Mercedes again, like Raquel, coming out showing her strength, the domination. All three battled in the ring. They all battled out of the ring. Uh, Lociari went up on this partition, and she must have went about 15 feet, and she landed on both Mercedes and Toni Storm, and Lociari seemed to be out. That left Mercedes and Toni Storm to go in the ring and do their thing for a few minutes, which was good, and try to give them a chance to shine, and they battled back and forth, a couple of close falls, and that's what you wanted to see out of both ladies, which was really what I was looking forward to. You get to see Toni Storm and Mercedes, but when it was all said and done, like I said, it was a short match. Lociari came off the top rope out of nowhere and hit Mercedes with the backflip and got Mercedes 1, 2, 3. Kind of a short match, fast paced, exciting, intense, kind of quick. I wanted to see it go a little longer. I gave it a 3.25 stars out of 5 because it was somewhat fast paced. Lociari, I can't pronounce her name properly. I apologize. Went out there and she put on some bumps. She took some flips. Mercedes and Toni worked well together. They utilized the entire ring area. A little short, but for what the time allotted for, because it was only a 2.5 hour show, and the first couple of matches took a while. Not bad, not bad. 3 ladies went out there. Io Shirai is still your women's champion. Does that mean Bianca Belair is going to go after her? Well, we'll find out. That's for another show. But for the show itself, yeah, Oshiari, she looks solid, and that bump 15 feet up. I mean, that was a solid, dive on both ladies. I mean, she really dished it out, and But this was really more, I think, showcasing more Mercedes and Tony Storm, and then allowing Io to retain. So solid effort by all ladies. Three and three quarter stars out of five on this matchup. The finale was Finn Balor. Finn Balor took on Pete Dunne, and for the NXT Championship. Finn came out strong like he always does, showing control. This match to me felt like a UFC fight for about the first, I don't know how many minutes, 10, 12 minutes. They were mostly on the floor. They were mostly on the ring apron, on the floor, just on the ring apron itself. A lot of these submissions back and forth with the leg. Finn was working the leg, working the arms. Really didn't see the high-flying acrobatics that we're accustomed to seeing out of Finn Balor for whatever the reason being, but we didn't get a chance to see it. The pace picked up about 20 minutes in, so it felt it was just really kind of slow and kind of lagged, I thought. It was really nothing outrageous. Finn went up to the top a little bit and tried to get things going. Um, there was a counter DDT by Balor. Dunne who countered a few times, but mostly just in the ring and confined close to each other. But when it was all said and done, it was a drop kick and on a top rope, and then the overhead suplex where he dropped him, where Finn dropped Dunne on his head, and that was it. Kind of slow paced, I thought, fairly slow paced for the first 20 minutes. That was kind of the negative aspect of it. They tried to pick it up a little bit, and then Finn basically had to finish it off. It wasn't like, wow, it didn't like give me like what's going on. It just felt dry. That was the word I thought that came to mind. The match felt kind of dry and not much acrobatics. Mostly it felt more like a UFC type of thing if you're into that. But for a wrestling match, I just didn't really see. There was a move here and there, but I didn't really see the ooh and the ah and the excitement and the passion and the energy. It kind of it kind of made me feel, when is this match going to end? That's how it left it. I gave the match a 3 stars out of 5. I gave it a 3 stars out of 5. I was actually kind of disappointed in the match itself. I really just, nothing against Finn, but Finn and Pete just did not, it just didn't seem like the connection was really there. It was just mostly UFC type of stuff on the ground, punches and submissions and arm bars. It just didn't really have that feel. A couple of close recounters, but overall, it was just kind of dry. It really was. Overall, I'd say watch it. I thought the opening women's match for the Dusty Rhodes women's was actually the best match on the card. I will give it credit where credit was due. I thought I thought for the short match for the triple threat for the women, with Io Shirai taking, holding on, I thought that was probably the second best match on the card. Gargano and Gargano and his shoulder would be the fourth best match, and I felt Finn and Pete ranked fifth overall. So that's where I thought the card went. So that was my thoughts overall. I gave it about a 3.5 star rating overall out of 5 with the opening match with the women, with Ember and Shotzi against Raquel and Dakota, the best match on the entire card. I'd like to know what your thoughts and opinions are about it, but that was my thoughts. Also, I want to let your fans know, please go to VokeNation.com. I did a recent article that has been posted. Who should Bianca Belair take on? Who should her opponent be for WrestleMania? You want to hear my thoughts and debate on who I think should she face on that. This pay-per-view is in the book. Next Sunday night on the 21st, we get the Elimination Chamber. Check back with me, and I will give you my preview, my thoughts, because we're well into WrestleMania season. For this Vengeance Rough Cuts report, this has been Sal Lasardo reporting in from Orlando, Florida. As always, may all of your matches be a main event, and please send any questions or comments you have to Sal and Bandit42 at gmail.com. That's Sal, letter N, Bandit42 at gmail.com. Any questions you may have, I'll be more than happy to answer them on my next video. Until next time, this is Sal Lasardo. Have a great night.